It has been a while, but we are finally doing another How to Draft a Perfect Fantasy Draft Team on Madden 23, and it's kind of like a mid-season one, obviously. I felt like this was the perfect time to do one if we were going to do one anytime, soon, because a lot of teams are on a bye week this week, so you would think the chances of, players getting major upgrades and changes, it wouldn't be as common. Of course, I'm going to show you how to, kind of start it, and then, obviously, we're going to go from there and take our players. But to make sure you have the updated rosters, you click this. I'm pretty sure the game just automatically updates them, but just in case they don't, there you go. And I know some people watching may not know how to actually start a fantasy draft, so in case you don't, you go to Franchise, you go over to Create a New League, you click Active Roster, because it'll use your active roster. You wait for this to get to 100%, of course. Once it is at 100%, you choose your team. We're using the Jets for this one. Your starting point, fantasy draft. That is literally the most important thing, fantasy draft, and then it'll say customized on it if you have it set. And then if you're going to be changing, like actual franchise save files to get the specific pick you want, make sure you have pre-existing injury off. And then the other one you pretty much need, because it'll get annoying if not, is tutorial pop-offs, and you're pretty much set. I already have a file that I'm going to be using, which is going to be pick 17. You want something around the 15 range, but 17 was kind of the best I could get. I just want a pass rusher in round one, and thankfully for guys like Micah Parsons and Max Crosby kind of showing up big time in the last couple of years, you have a lot of options now. Before it was kind of like, Myles Garrett, and that's probably the only guy I would probably draft in the first round. But now you got Parsons, who is obviously gone already, and then you have Max Crosby, who's really solid too. But for us here at 17, Myles Garrett is still here, and he is a freak. But obviously, they did make a bunch of changes. A bunch of different new players have been added to the the game and the pool, if you will. Max Crosby's a 25-year-old X Factor now. Decently fast, great finesse, okay power move, really good block shed, and just as smart as they get. I mean, look at how 98 awareness, 95 play rec, very insanely talented. Hell, you still have TJ Watt. We didn't forget about you, TJ. We didn't forget about you, but you're a little older, you're a little slower, but you're really great too. He's obviously very solid as well. But as far as the first round goes, I'll show you guys and kind of mention how the couple of sims I did on average went. This one went exactly how most of my sims went, but recently enough I seen Lamar at 2, so it will fluctuate a little bit, but in general this is how the first 5 picks do go. The first 7 actually was my most common, so definitely proves here for me personally that this is a very common thing. So Mahomes at 1, Allen at 2 is going to be very, very highly, replicated. Burrow at 3, he's pretty good, but if I'm getting pick 1, I want Mahomes or Allen, simply put. So realistically, if you're trying to go for the most OP roster, top 2 pick gets you that. Lamar is obviously great too, and Herbert's not bad, but Jalen Hurts, he's like an 84 overall superstar now. Tons of fun there. Justin Jefferson, exactly where I would expect. I will say, though, Nick Bosa in some of these sims has gone a bit later than I would have thought. Usually goes around 10 to 11, but once again, I don't really care too much about Nick Bosa in the game, as he's a little bit on the slower side, and once again, we're getting a guy like Myles Garrett who's literally better than him in-game at every single facet. So with this pick, we are going to be going Myles Garrett. A close second for me would have been DK, which he should still be here. DK Metcalf, he's obviously insane, but I think with the amount of wide receivers you can get later, and for me, the definition of a perfect fantasy draft guide is not having an OP quarterback, having someone you still have to develop, wide receivers you still have to develop. I think with a guy like Jameson Williams in round 10 being there, I think you don't need a wide receiver round 1, but a good pass rusher like Myles, he's OP, but it's not like it's going to completely control your entire franchise. Like, oh, well, got Myles Garrett out there. I don't even need to play anymore. You still need to play, obviously. So, Myles Garrett in the first round, you can't go wrong. I would be aiming for pick 15 or 16 so you can get Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett. Perfect timing to show Russell Wilson what a joke that he still goes that high. He's an X Factor, but he's like a 76 overall, which is ridiculous. Kyle Pitts would have been another fun one, as he's just an absolute freak. I wish it would actually show you when they were drafted, but typically Pitts is like right at the end of the first round, so that's where I would assume he'd be. Jamar Chase, a lot of these guys are pretty much where I'd expect them to be, which I love to see, obviously. And this is a tough one for me, but with the upgrade to Justin Fields' speed, it is really hard for me to pass on him. And with quarterback going very, very high, if you don't want to, like a youngster kind of quarterback, like, maybe Ritter, Malik Willis, or something like that, you got to get a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. I mean, you look behind or below Fields, what do you really have? You have Trey Lance, who he's a 3rd rounder. Zach Wilson's I think he actually goes this round as well, or early 3rd round. You really don't have many options left. If you're not going to go quarterback like Fields, which I think I'm going to in this one, I feel like a guy like Jair Alexander is almost impossible to pass on. I also didn't know that they dropped him from X Factor to Superstar. As a Packers fan, I got to admit, I think it's fair. I think he has dropped off quite a bit this year, which is really unfortunate, but definitely has been getting burned way more than normal. However, Denzel Ward is a guy I think I'm going to be going in the 4th round, late 3rd, early 4th. I think it's early 4th I'm going to be going for him. So in this case, if you went pass rusher in round 1 like we did, and you don't want quarterback, I think Waddle is a very good option. And then the other option I would actually really like would be Quentin Nelson, because once again, you can't teach superstar linemen. Quentin Nelson will be here for you at least 8 seasons. And obviously, once again, he's a superstar. You can play him at tackle, play him wherever you want. But I think it's not too OP, and I want a good quarterback in this situation. Fields still needs a lot of developing. He doesn't have superstar, doesn't have X Factor, doesn't have any abilities or anything like that. But he's fast, he's fun, and he is now your quarterback. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm glad I looked at the players, because I almost kind of suggested the wrong type of player here. I was assuming Vita Vea was still a god in the game, and to be honest, at 27 years old, with the regression he's had in-game, I no longer think he's worth taking. 85 power move, 83 block shed at 27 is absolutely not worth it. But I really do want DT still. It is really tough to go for a guy like Jordan Davis when Quentin Williams is there, and I just don't think, even when Jordan Davis is superstar development trait and he's a big monster, I don't think I could take him over Quentin Williams. Quentin Williams is like a mid to late 4th round guy, but I want him and Denzel Ward, so I can't take them both in the same round, and DT goes very early, so I'm going to be reaching a little bit here, but when you look at how talented Williams is, I don't really think it's much of a reach at all. So we're going to go DT, shoring up more of that defensive line, and yeah, from there, I'm pretty much happy. I think edge rush, I won't go till round 20 or later. DT, maybe about 15 or so or later. I think you have those 2 cornerstone pieces, which are enough. Another great choice if he didn't want Quentin is Dexter Lawrence. However, he's a little bit slower, and he's obviously a little bit bigger, so it depends on kind of what you're going for. But since we're in a 4-3, I felt like Quentin fits it a little bit better, and we're the Jets, so why not? It's kind of a cute little move. Which, speaking of cute little moves, maybe leaving a like and subscribing if you're new. That would be a cute little move in my opinion. Of course, I mentioned that Denzel Ward is a late 4th. So is Quentin, in fairness. But Denzel Ward is a guy you cannot pass on. 94 speed, 96 excel, 91 man, 91 zone. I do want to see how good Sauce is, though. If it tastes well or not. Because he's on my list very close, too. 86 overall. He's not as fast, but I'd imagine he's superstar, though, right? I actually can't find it without backing out, but I will say, even if he's superstar, you can't teach speed, and Denzel Ward has got that speed. So Denzel Ward is my guy. Every single fantasy draft guide, really, any fantasy draft I can get a chance, to be fair. And now this is where I kind of, lose my, wouldn't say like train, but I kind of have to start thinking about the players a little bit more. Before it was just like it came to me. Now it's like, well, let's relax here a little bit. Let's make sure we're getting the right guy. And it seems early because he is like an early 6th, but Creed Humphrey is a talented offensive lineman, 24 years old, 88 overall, Pass block is a little bit on the weaker side, I'm going to admit, but I'm going to go Creed Humphrey as he's just by far the best value right now. You know, if I wasn't going to go with him, some of the options would have been like Devontae Smith, Jamel Dean, Marquise Brown, Brian O'Neill, but he's older and he's obviously a tackle, so he's going to be higher value in that sense. Greg Newsome, you know, it's a lot of, you know, positions that aren't hard to get. Like wide receiver, like I said, you have in the 10th round, Jameson Williams. You know, you look even further down the line, you have, let me see, like in round 29, you can get Tyquan Thornton. Like he's 6'2", 90-some speed, like 95, 96 speed or something like that. He's insane. And then best value, again, I think is Frank Ragnow. You guys know that he's just like Denzel Ward to me. I almost always grab him because he's just so good. Maybe next Madden we're thinking, maybe not, because he'd be 27, star is like a little iffy, but 26, still very young, and you have yourself, if you're going to play Creed and him there, absolute franchise tackles. Of course, if you weren't going to go with him there, you could have went with like Devin White. He could still actually be here. He goes around 13 or 14 in this round, and he is not. So yeah, he probably would have went a couple of picks before us. But I just think with some of the linebackers that I have later, like what's his name, Troy Anderson, like in the round 20-something, you just don't need to go that route. And I will say Devin White went a little bit earlier than expected, maybe like 8 picks, maybe about 3 or 4 picks before I would have expected 8 picks ago. And I normally would go with like a safety, and like Antoine Winfield's not a bad choice here, but unless you're going to be moving Antoine to corner, which, I mean, maybe you have a chance to do so, I wouldn't do it. There's so many good safeties later. It's just not worth grabbing safety in the first like 10 to 15 rounds. Even Jeremy Chin, I'm probably going to pass on. The only safety I'd maybe go for, I guess Chin or Isaiah Simmons to move them back to linebacker. But once again, you just don't even really need linebacker. There's just so many good ones later on. Like, let's take a look. Troy Anderson, Tyndall, who else? Nakobe Dean. I know some of these guys are a little more raw, but look how fast they are. Not a super hard position to develop, and in general, linebackers don't jump for interceptions, so do you really want to go that high for one? I don't think so. And honestly, other than going super reach, I can't find a better value in the 7th round than Breece Hall. It is not easy to get someone his speed with the duality, I suppose. In the draft, you can get a lot of guys that will have 90 or 80 plus trucking, 80 some juke move, but they're usually like 89, 90 speed at best. 93 speed, 92 excel at 21 years old is absurd. Kenneth Walker would have went a little bit before this, but Breece Hall is also just as good, and we're going to go Breece Hall. Once again, it is so hard to pass on these insanely good safeties. You could easily play a guy like Gardner Johnson at corner, though, and that value may be too much for me to pass up in the end, but this is kind of when he would go. He'd go around 20-ish in the 8th round, so the value is absolutely there. And we're going to have to sadly start reaching now. There are a lot of good players in the round 10 to round 11 region. In round 10, now I wouldn't really care once again about linebacker too much, but Quay Walker at 7 in the 10th round, J.C. Horn at 15, Chin at 16, Jermaine Johnson at 17, Jameson at 19, ETN at 23 if you didn't go running back, McCall Hardman at 27, and then you have in the 11th, pick 4 is Tariq Woolen, Fant at 8, Isaiah Simmons at 17, so there's a lot of players that I want here that I won't be able to grab all of them. Jameson Williams is by far the most important, especially since we don't actually have a wide receiver yet, so I'm going to start this kind of reaching run, if you will, with Jameson. And then the next one, I think, goes once again right back to need. Noah Fant is a guy that goes probably, you know, if you were to try to get someone like this in free agent or not free agency in the draft, probably goes in the first 20 picks. And Fant, even though he's a little raw, does have great catching, insane speed, super great excel, and obviously he's 6'4". He's a really talented player. Noah Fant is going to be my choice. 77 overall is a little low, I will admit, but he's still really good. I'd say as of next Madden, though, similar to Ragnow, probably not going to be on my list. 25, if he doesn't step it up a little bit, that overall is not good enough at 25, 26, We're really hoping that Isaiah Simmons is there next round. Don't know if we really need him, but Tariq Woolen, even though I don't think you need corner super high, A 78 catching, 98 speed, 6'4" corner who's 23 and star. I just think it's physically impossible to pass on. I feel like if you pass on him in a fantasy draft where you're playing solo, you might as well just delete the file because you've really sold. And I think Isaiah Simmons is probably going to be our linebacker rather than safety. I think either way, it's a great, he's a great player. So, gonna take Isaiah Simmons here without a doubt. I mean, these are pretty obvious. Of course, I don't know if I mentioned it. Maybe I'll re-mention it, but top line of the description or the pinned comment is where I will be placing the image for all the players I've got here. Obviously, taken a couple of sims and added the most kind of common ranking for these guys, and that's what I'm basing this off of. So it's not going to be the prettiest looking thing. It's not going to be some spreadsheet Excel craziness. It's just going to be an image that you can enlarge and call it a day. And honestly, there's not really a whole lot of crazy value going on at this round, so I'm going to go Zion Johnson. He's a little more raw than I would like, but 22 hidden. You got yourself a young star lineman. I don't really like to take linemen unless they're gods and are just going to be pure anchors, unless it's in the actual rookie draft. But the value's there. I'm going to take them. Like, there's just so much speed. Like Lewis Cine, I obviously want a ton. JT Woods, you can get. I believe on the strong safety spot, there's some speed. Nick Cross, I've never used him as a starter, but 20 years old, 92 speed, 96 excel, 74 zone. It's literally higher than Daxton Hill's zone anyways, I think. 84 hit power. All it takes is one breakout, and he's already there. The normal dev in a fantasy draft is your friend. I also have to apologize for my friend Trey Hendrickson here. He fluctuates hard. I was going to be grabbing him in round 14. Apparently he went round 12. So he is a tough guy to keep tabs on. But if you can get him around 12-ish, I guess he's worth grabbing. But yeah, I was expecting to get him a little bit later. There's still plenty of other pass rush options. But as far as high, good value picks go, he was one of the best in entire fantasy drafts. And honestly, because Dax went a little bit sooner than I would have thought, I don't want to lose him. He's insane. 6'2", 93 speed, 95 excel, 89 hit power. He's him. He's just him. Simply put, he's now our starting free safety. With, once again, keep in mind, Isaiah Simmons playing linebacker, not safety. And now, I'm not super keen on how much speed hinders a player, but Daniel Falele at 6'8", 380 is a tough pass. And I really do kind of think, looking back, that Creed probably does fit more as an interior guy, as his pass block is, low 80s. I'm going to go Daniel Falele just because he's insane value here, late 14th. Whereas this is kind of the rounds that you'd be taking a lot of DBs, and we already have 2 corners and a safety, and it's just do we really need to go any more there? Probably not. And once again, Simmons is a linebacker. And some of my players have been going a good half round early, so I'm going to take Baron Browning here. He's just so good. 87 speed, 92 excel, 78 power move, 74 block shed. Like I said, normal dev in these fantasy drafts is your friend because, once again, they're valued lower, and once again, all you need is one breakout, and it's really not that hard. One tackle for a loss for an edge rusher, one tackle for a loss for a linebacker, safety, whatever. It's so easy. And then here, believe it or not, I'm actually going to go with the normal dev Tyler Smith. Now, normal dev here isn't really going to save you because you can't dev up linemen. Well, you actually can if they win best lineman, but 21 years old, but very good for, a normal dev player. I mean, these ratings are way better than a 74. He's even got some speed. I'd probably end up playing him at left guard or something, whatever you need. Obviously, our tackles, I think, are set. Falele is going to be a starter there at one of the tackle spots. And I think the value's there. I don't know what they're talking about. Kadarius Toney went about 8 picks before I would have expected. I would have definitely thought about him there. And it's really hard to make the decision I'm about to. But as far as DT goes, there's not really a whole lot of options left. It's not really looking super great here. And I think I may end up going. I'm going to take a look at one more player before I make that call. And I think I'm going to do it. Logan Hall. He's not technically a DT, but 283, 6'6" is very big. And he has mad potential. 85 strength. Block shed and power move, I will admit, is a little bit lower, but I do like him here to play DT. it's a little iffy, I will admit, but I like him. I like him. It's probably going to be our worst pick by far in the fantasy draft itself, but need a DT, and once again, that position goes quick, which is why you always try to draft one pretty early. Quentin Williams is an absolute anchor, so we're not too worried about it anyways, but you know, it's a position that you're not going to find late. Like, look at all the players we have left. They're all old as hell, and even then, they're not even great anyways. And my man's is getting there. 25-year-old Terrell Edmunds. For some reason, he gets a ton of breakout scenarios early on. I just never complete them in a rebuild, but obviously if you're playing as him, as the team, you can obviously get them, but I think I have other safeties that are a little more fun and better later on anyways. And then we're going to reach for one of my other favorite gems in Madden, and that is Eric Stokes. 95 speed, 94 excel, 85 agility is a little low, but catching at 68 is fine. Press at 83 is really good, actually. Man and zone are solid. 23, 6'1", and all you need is one breakout. He's by far one of the top 3 best values you can get in a fantasy. And honestly, I really regret that Logan Hall pick. I completely forgot about Aleem McNeil, and I know he is a little bit of a bigger guy, but he's actually very athletic. 76 power move, 74 block shed. That Logan Hall pick, pretty bad. Not going to lie. Pretty bad. If I were to redo that pick, although I will admit the players around there weren't great anyways, I guess I would just go Terrell Edmunds, maybe for the depth, maybe just start him anyways. I don't know, but Aleem McNeil, I think, is a better choice, actually. And now this is the round where, you know, if you didn't get a quarterback, this is probably where I'd go Malik Willis, as I believe he is there. He is 69 overall. Malik Willis goes this round. Ritter goes this round. Jordan Love goes this round. The reason why I would maybe actually, believe it or not, choose Jordan Love over them all is because I believe he has Gunslinger 1, which is the most OP throwing style in the game, and it makes a mad difference. It really does. But if you're playing on your own and you decide you want to change throw power or throw motions on your own anyways, then that's completely irrelevant. If you do that, you don't care about that kind of stuff, then absolutely don't take him. Take Malik Willis, then Ritter. But we obviously have Fields, so we're not going to do that. But instead, we are going to add another speed demon. 24 is starting to get up there a little bit in age, but 98 speed wide receiver. I mean, that's just busted. Quez Watkins, welcome. Damn, Nakobe Dean went like a whole round early. These fantasy drafts do throw you off. They are all over the place at times. Nakobe Dean would have been so awesome. I love him in the game. He is such a beast. Still have other options, so I'm not like, oh, well, there goes the whole freaking fantasy draft guy. There's plenty of other options. All the way in round 35, I have like Leo Chanel, Channing Tindall, Nizraldine, Derek Barnes. I mean, we've got options, so I'm not worried about it. That's why I don't go linebacker too early. Isaiah Simmons is just the exception. He has insane ratings that, other than maybe Troy Anderson, you really don't have anyone that's even close to his change of direction, speed, and size. Guys, we're going to add to the line again, very high value Connor Williams, who is just really solid. 25 is not that old either. Super value. He's going to be joining the squad, which I think finishes the offensive line. Of course, we do have a couple of other options, but no one really even close to as good as that. You know, looking at like Cody Ford and, you know, guys like that, Ed Ingram, not the greatest of options. And then if you're somebody that likes to run backups, this is probably where I would be going for a backup. It's kind of tough between who you'd rather go with. Brian Robinson, he's 23 star. He's a very solid player. 88 trucking, 88 speed, 90 excel, 94 carrying. I mean, they're very similar. 70 catching. I don't know what Robinson's catching is, but if you're going for a backup, which, I mean, I kind of feel like the novelty is there. It is kind of fun to have, you know, 2 solid running backs. It's tough to say who I'd rather go with. I'd probably rather go with Brian here, though. He's a little bit worse in catching, but Brian Robinson's a little better, it seems. Wait, so 80 change of direction, or 77 change of direction, 80 agility. I can't imagine Dylan would be much higher than that, right? Yeah, they're like the same. Maybe it's just the Packer fan in me, but I think I actually would go A.J. Dillon. He's a bit bigger in the weight department, but more importantly, he has 5 better stiff arm. 1 year older is like, it is something to mention, but the fact that he's your backup means he probably won't get that much XP anyways, so you need the best, like, high ratings now. So A.J. Dillon, the backup running back. And this is a tough one for me because I don't want to lose Romeo Doubs. And it's not just because I'm a Packers fan. He's actually really good in the game. But Kelvin Joseph is another one of those guys you just can't pass on. He's 6 foot tall, 22 years old, insane speed, insane excel, really good man in zone. We obviously already have a good couple of corners, but you can never have too many. So Kelvin Joseph's our choice. I'd rather have him as a number 3, I will admit, but at this point, I know we don't technically have all of our starters, specifically linebacker, but I'm telling you, we're going to get our linebackers. And sadly, we do lose Romeo Doubs, but even though it's another speedster, Tyquan Thornton's there, so it is what it is. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a reach, but just trying to fill out and finish out the roster at this point, other than the 2 linebackers, kicker and punter, fullback technically as well, you pretty much have your starting roster anyways, so I'm going to be reaching a little bit just to grab who I want and who I need rather than just taking best available, because once again at this point, a lot of the players are pretty good. Like Kendrick Green's good there, but we have 5 linemen. We don't really need another lineman. Going to go with Christian Harris here, another added linebacker. Once again, he's a little raw. Block shed's only 66, zone coverage only 60, but 93 speed, 93 excel, change of direction, I'm pretty sure is like low 80, high 70. Very good player. He's 21, so many years to develop. And the guy we talked about way earlier, the 20-year-old Nick Cross, who if you developed him into a superstar / X Factor in the first 5 years, from start to finish, you could have him for like 15 seasons, which is, insane to think about. Once again, at this point, we're just grabbing who we want. Troy Anderson's a guy that usually goes like in the 30s, but we just don't have much more that we really need. Of course, he's insane. One of the highest change direction linebackers in the entire game. His block shedding and zone coverage is actually really good too. Well, zone maybe not so much, but block shed pretty decent considering how low of an overall he is. It's not easy to get linebacker block sheds. I think some of the highest in the game are in the 80s at best, Backup safety, JT Woods, his hit power is pretty low in fairness, but great catching, super speedy. As long as you got something, if you don't have hit power, if you're at least fast, the nice catching helps. You're still worth it. Worth it to me, damn it. Super fun, fast tight end, Chigozie Okonkwo. Gonna grab him. He was one of our sleeper players before the Madden season actually started. And now, I don't know how much burn he'll get, especially if you did grab 2 running backs already, but Tyler Batty is super fun, dude. Small, pretty decently fast, has a little bit of trucking as a running back, and he's obviously young. Pretty cool. Decent value backup lineman in case you got an injury, Baez. And then, at this point, you're pretty much just grabbing, like, good value speedsters. There's not really much, the last, 7 rounds probably, there hasn't been, much strategy to it. Grab a guy like Tyndall. You have so long. If I'm not mistaken, other than what round did Tucker go? Round 27 where Justin Tucker goes, I don't think the AI actually drafts special teamers. I actually don't think they do. So you could literally wait forever pretty much, and you don't even have to worry about it. Why not? Grab another speedster, Percy Butler. We probably could have done a little bit better at wide receiver, though, right? We only grabbed 3. Get yourself an Anthony Schwartz, pretty fast. It's dropped off a little bit in speed, but 21, plenty of potential. Maybe could have done, like I said, a little bit better at wide receiver. At one point, I had an easy shot at Christian Watson, but I felt like it was just too easy if you go Christian Watson. At least, with Quez and Tyquan, you do have to develop a little bit, but Watson, he's now star dev in the game, so you'd have 2 6'2 plus. Obviously, Watson's 6'4", wide receivers that are already star plus with super speed, but even then, look at how fast these guys are. A lot of them are kind of, maybe not a lot, but Tyquan and Jameson are a little on the taller side as well. But just in case your league gets a little weird, maybe knock out the special teamers if you want. Evan McPherson. And then the obvious best punter in the game at this point is A.J. Cole because of the age and the dev. So A.J. Cole it is. And then you're set with the special teamers as well. Kind of sold with not getting Nwangwu, but you could just obviously put anyone fast back there. Ty Chandler, decent speed. Obviously he's 24 as a rookie, but decent speed obviously. Now recently I had him retire after 1 year, but high value in case you miss one of your linemen, Ben Jones. Even though we don't need him, still so high a value, you got to take him. And then it's pretty much just about, loading up on what you need. Suppose we need a return man. Jakeem Grant's still there. He's pretty fun. You know, wide receiver, Calvin Austin. He's 23, which is a little bit of an L, but he is a rookie, I suppose, if you really like the rookie grind, which I think is obviously fun, using rookies and whatnot from real life. He's a good player. You know, Bo Melton's there. I don't know about Andy Isabella per se, but I'd say maybe Bo Melton, actually. He's 23 as well, isn't he? D'Angelo Malone's still there, too, I guess. You need some depth at pass rush, so D'Angelo Malone as well. Although at this point, Logan Hall is probably our pass rush depth. Whoops, my bad. Another, actually, where did Kalen Barnes go? He probably would have been gone already. Completely forgot about Barnes. Did forget about Kalen Barnes, although when I was looking, I don't remember seeing him ever. Still got other guys like McCollum, who's not quite as fast, or Jalen Armour-Davis, who aren't as quite as fast, but I mean, there's value there. We've got our 5 corners now. I think based on age, the best fullback in the game now is technically Gilliam. Of course, a bit on the faster side as well, 25 star, so he's our starting fullback. Oh, he was such a low overall, he just wasn't showing up at this point. Okay, Kalen Barnes, he was still there, pretty fast. A little bit of a long shot, but we've had Tariq Woolen, our Seahawks franchise, glow up. And now we have Barnes in the series as well, but he's still developing. Barno! Super speedy, raw as hell, but fast. So I grabbed one too many offensive linemen, and I actually like Connor Williams quite a bit. I'd actually probably rather have him at guard and Zion at center. So I would actually be trading Daniel Falele. It depends. I don't know how much him being big helps or hurts, but the fact that he's 52 speed, I think you move on from him. But he was good value at the time, and I mean, he's decent. I mean, if you look at the chart, well, you know, I'm going to have it posted. Once you click on it, you will realize it's like, yeah, he really didn't have many options. Kind of want to see what the value of Falele is. I mean, sure, he's got to be decent, right? Oof, maybe not. If I can get even like a second-round pick, we will end up doing a rebuild for this team, so that's why I kind of want to just see what I can get now for him, and, you know, we'll put that into the value of the video. Wow, the Browns are a pretty good team for this. Geno's not bad, but what could you actually get for Daniel Falele? Seems like probably a third, a fourth with Daniel. It seems like maybe a third is his value. I kind of want this second round, though, bad. Oh, we'll give him a fifth, I guess. Wait, what was that fifth next year valued at? Same thing. So, Daniel, a fourth and a fifth for a second, and then we have our line anyways. But once again, talking about the insanity is the change of direction of these linebackers. 81, 82, 85, 85, which is just absurd for linebackers. I mean, that probably is like on par with some of our corners even, and we have really good corners. 83 for Woolen, 84 for Stokes. I mean, you got 2 linebackers that have better change of direction than your god-tier speed corners. So let's see what the actual overall of the team is, and it is an 80. We got an 80 in a fantasy draft guide, though. I don't remember what our last one was, but the average team overall is like an 81 to 82-ish. And the fact that we're slightly lower than the average, despite the fact that no player on our team is even close to retirement, or at least starter-wise. Obviously, Ben Jones may retire, and the team picked up Sue. But this is a 6 squad. Now, I will say, you're looking at some of these normal devs, and you're like, wow, normal devs? What are you, some sort of bum? But once again, they're all super young. 20 years old. Troy Anderson's 23, in fairness. Tinzel, I believe, is 21, 22. But, oh, wow, that blinded me. But everyone is super young and developable. It's insane how much talent this team has. The corners are honestly probably too good. I really don't know how you throw against Woolen, Denzel, and Stokes. There's so much speed there. There's quite a bit of size at the cornerback 2 spot with Tariq Woolen just locking things down. DT with Gwennon and Myles Garrett. I mean, that's just insane. The speed of the safeties, like Scene's, 93 speed, 95 excel, 89 hip power. I mean, this team is really good, and obviously the athleticism is off the charts. This is a team that would be very hard to beat. Very hard to beat. I mean, the worst of your players is kind of your linebackers, who once again have better change of direction than like half the league's corners. And then obviously wide receiver, I suppose, is another weak position, but Jameson for sure is your number 1 long-term. Thornton and Watkins obviously have potential, but I will say opening the door for potentially a rookie wide receiver at the 2 or 3 spot is kind of fun as well. That's the only downside of these fantasy drafts is you get so many young developable players that you're kind of like, who do I even like draft? Like if I was going into the draft, fresh draft, unless there was some god player that you just couldn't miss on, probably DT1, maybe wide receiver. I don't think I would replace anyone else. It's not going to be static, no pick. Other than maybe the first 10 picks, it's going to be all over the place for the most part. Sometimes you're going to get guys that are there that shouldn't be, and then you're just going to be guys that should be there and they just aren't. But this is going to be my updated fantasy draft guide for Madden 23 franchise, and we will, like I said, do a rebuild at some point for this team. I will say, I wonder the success for this, because I will say in Sim, Fields isn't really the greatest quarterback, but obviously he's super fast and all that, is dynamic as hell, really tough to stop when you're actually using him. But as far as like rebuilds go, he's not the greatest player, not going to lie. He's not that great. I don't know how the other wide receivers are going to develop, because speed, it doesn't really matter in Sim. EA just cares about, the route running and catching and all that stuff, and overall, so speed doesn't really have the value or the effect it does in-game where it does in Sim. So some players may need to be replaced. As far as who I would expect to have to replace in a rebuild is probably wide receiver 2, maybe 3, potentially Fields, actually, believe it or not. Maybe safety. Safety's hit or miss, but he's young. Linebackers, I think, are fine, and then maybe DT2. But I think a lot of these guys, even in a rebuild, are going to perform well. So we'll see that at some point. Maybe even next weekend I'll do a video for it, rebuild-wise. But that's going to be pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed this one, you thought it was helpful, or you just enjoyed watching it, maybe leave a like, maybe subscribe if you're new. If you're not new, really appreciate your continued support, especially since if you're not new, you're probably one of the people maybe requesting this video. I think we already uploaded 2 videos for today, so nothing for the rest of the day. Probably a second channel video tomorrow. I was going to have one on Friday, and realized I didn't have an actual video to edit, and I was like, oh crap, I do not have time for that, but going to try to hopefully get one for tomorrow. Far Cry, I really want to finish that so I can move on to another game, and I might even just start recording something like Ragnarok or something and start uploading that in between anyways. But that's about it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys come back for next video, but until next video, see ya!